Welcome to the regular meeting of the Berthoud Board of Trustees, June 11th, 2013. Will you please call the roll?
Mayor David Gray.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jan Dowker.
Here.
Trustee Thomas Jones.
Here.
Trustee John Bauer.
Here.
Trustee Susie White.
Here.
Trustee Dick Shepherd.
Here.
Trustee Paul Albeck.
Thanks. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up we have, is this working? Hello? I don't think we're on.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
Mary? I don't think we're on. Sorry to interrupt. Testing, testing. There we go. Thank you. Next up, we have citizen participation. This is a time for anyone to speak to a matter that's not on the agenda tonight before the board. We have one person signed, or Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. Looks like you want to speak on the GMA, which is on the agenda. You'll have an opportunity to speak at that time. Would that be all right? Okay. Is there anyone else? Thank you. Next up, we'll deal with the consent agenda, which only consists of minutes from May 21st. Is there anybody who wants any discussion on that or a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have Administrator Hart with library appointment.
This is a carryover item from the last meeting or the meeting before that, I can't remember. There was some question about the term limits for the library appointments, and we went through a reconciliation process with the library. And so I think Mary went to get her notes, or?
I just stopped in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah. We received information from the library director that was in your packet showing the process that we went through. And it does look like in the past, there were one or two that had different dates possibly than what they should have had. But those people are not on the board anymore at this time. So it looks now like the December 31st, 2016 would be the correct term for Mr. Dart. And because of the confusion with some of the terms, I'm asking that just as a housekeeping item, you just reappoint all the others as well to those terms so that we have a clean place to start now. And then we'll just keep a log of everything as it's happening.
Thank you. Is there any questions or discussion?
Will the library board then be notifying us whenever there's a vacancy that comes in that's not part of the term? Or are they going to be?
That would be my assumption, yeah.
Because they haven't been doing it in the past, so if we could ask them to do that, that'd be great.
I'll just ask them to notify us if there's a resignation or any type of a vacancy, whether it's been filled yet or not, just so that we're aware of it.
Great, thank you.
I'm sure they'd be happy to do that.
And then do we need a motion to approve the appointment?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got
just
two suggested motions.
two, actually.
First one is to appoint Mr. Dart for a term ending December 31st, 2016, and then the other one is housekeeping, reaffirming, I guess, or
So
reappointing.
I'll go ahead and make the first motion to move to appoint Mr. Dart to the Berthoud Community Library Board District with the term ending December 31st, 2016.
Is there any further discussion on that first motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And thank you for digging in and getting to the bottom of this and figuring out some history with that. There's a recommendation for a second motion.
I'll go ahead and make that one too. So I move to appoint the following current members to the Berthoud Community Library District as a housekeeping measure to coordinate terms ending with the Berthoud Community Library District terms. All terms will end on December 31st of the year listed below. Catherine Churchill, 2013. Ken Mathias, 2013. Margaret Skrobach, 2014. Devin Cook, 2015. Lara Bonilla, 2015. And Mary Tonsing, 2016.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion with that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you very much, Miss Mary.
Thank you.
Next, that brings us to public hearing regarding the Hilltop Minor Subdivision zoning and subdivision. Planner Caters.
Take me a second to set up here.
Apologize for munching, this is my supper.
Well, let's get this. Oh, well, we get it the right point in the right direction might help, guys. There we go.
Oh, no, thanks very much. Feel bad I'm not drinking like water or something healthy.
There we go. That worked out. And I'm sorry, while I was doing that, did you open the public hearing yet at this point?
Open this public hearing.
What you have before you is a rezoning request. Then you do have a recommendation from the Planning Commission on this. It's for the Hilltop Minor Subdivision. Essentially, that's the name of the subdivision event, but we talk about it as what we're really looking at here today is a rezoning of 0.48 acres here in town. I'll shift to maps in just a second and show you where this property is and what's going on this property. Doug Lindgren and Susan Lenthe are bringing forward this proposal for their property. What they're looking to do with the property is subdivide it into a 3-lot subdivision. And in order to have 3 lots on this property, it does need a rezoning change in order to make that occur. On the 30th of May, the Planning Commission did take action on 2 items. They made a recommendation on zoning. They also, because it's a minor subdivision, the Planning Commission has the ability to take action on a minor subdivision, but they made that action conditional because of the rezoning event that was pending for today. So I'm going to run to, let me just show you. We'll just run to this. I'll show you the property. It's going to probably be, it's the corner of Bruce Drive and 7th Street right here. This the drawing that I have up really shows the existing house, the frame residence, a couple of asphalt drives that are in place today. And then this is just the proposed lotting. Again, we're not dealing with lotting today. I want to get that up a little bit. Keeps wanting to jump down on me. And I wanted to get down to the alley down below a little bit. Not going to let me. So I'll shift her to this. We do have a public alley down along the south side of this property. It's not used. It ends at the Berthoud Senior Living Center at its western end towards 8th Street. It's just grassed in. It's essentially maintained by property owners on both sides of the property itself, running north and south. We'll go to once that opens up. The rezoning map is quite simple. Once my little iPad decides, there we go. It's amazingly simple rezoning drawing. Again, 0.48 acres with Bruce Drive, 7th Street, the alley down at the bottom of the property, and they are looking for R2 zoning. I'll shift away from those drawings and jump back to my staff report. So they're looking at that change from R1 to R2 zoning. That R2 zoning does allow a density of up to 8 units per gross acre. They have just under a half. So if they had a half acre, if they had, instead of having 0.48, they had 0.5, it would allow for lots to be created on this property. They do not have that property. It's 0.48, so they're under that number. And what they're really doing, they're seeking the ability to have that subdivision, those 3 lots that I showed you on the property, and build a couple of homes over the next couple of years. So, again, subdivision's not before you, zoning's before you. The zoning event that we're in right now and your decision this evening does either allow or disallow that 3-lot subdivision to occur. So it's an important decision. Then it does reflect to the subdivision, but that's not your question before you today. So we do have a mix of zoning near this property. We've got R1, R2, and R3 zoning in the area. R3 zoning is across 7th Street to the east, and we've got then R2 and R1 zoning next to this as well. When I wrote my staff report, it was the 4th of June, and I had no comments from the public on any of the mailing referrals for this property or signs on the property or anything like that, any of the public notices at all. That statement still holds. I still do not have any, up till now, I have not received any other comments from neighbors or property owners adjacent to, protesting or the proposed action. So you do have a recommendation from staff. It's on your cover sheet to move to approve this zoning. But any questions for me? And then if anyone else from the public, of course, wants to talk, they have their opportunity as well.
Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Would they like to say anything?
Sure. Okay. Do you want a drawing up? Do you want to?
Drawing would be fine, or do you have the,
It'd take me a second to get to it. Sure, I'll get to
And we'll need you to come up to the podium so that the microphone
see
can
which ones.
pick you up.
Let's see which one's got some existing on it. Come on there, little buddy. There we go. There, that'll clear up in just 1 second.
And if you could give us your name and address for the record.
My name's Doug Lindgren. My address is 4701 Beverly Drive, Berthoud. Let's see here. Right now you can see that the lot's quite large. It's all grass. It used to be watered right in here. Pretty hard to maintain the way it is right now. What we'd like to do is subdivide it and build a home here that would face Ruth Street and build a home here that would face 7th Street. And we allotted for a utility easement that would be between the lots. All of the utilities are in the streets and the alley, and so it's pretty simple from the town's perspective. The location is wonderful from a family home situation that Berthoud's 2 blocks away, Turner's 2 blocks away. It's really a very nice infill subdivision, and we would build the houses ourselves. We would hope to do it starting this fall, build one, and depending on how it went, follow with another home. Both houses will be what I'd like to say is affordable, very energy efficient, and sustainable if that's possible. So that, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, the point is it's a really nice location, and we want to build 2 new homes.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Thank you. At this time, I'll open this hearing up for public comment. Is there anybody that would like to speak before us on this matter? Seeing none, I will close the public comment and bring it to the board for questions or comments. Pretty straightforward. Thank you, Tim, for the work on this. Any questions?
No, just one comment. I concur with staff's agreement that, you know, around the property that's already zoned 1, 2, and 3, and seems very consistent with the area. So I don't see any objection on that, or perceive any objection with it, with the area. Not hearing anything from the neighbors around it, I believe that it's pretty consistent.
Anything else?
Thank you for the infill development, actually.
It should make that corner look a little more finished, I would think.
For the neighborhood, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, we'll accept a motion to approve the rezone per Planning Commission's recommendation.
Well, in that case, I'll go ahead and move to rezone the Hilltop Minor Subdivision to R2 Limited Multifamily District.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you. We appreciate you bringing this to us.
Thank you so much.
I will close that public hearing. And next, we're going to hear also from Planner Caters on an amendment to the growth management area.
I'll do a little bit of a mix between my staff report and then the map for this proposal that's before you. There's a fair amount of information in this agenda item. I give you a lot of background. Running into last fall, we'd had concerns about, especially about one of the properties. I'll switch to the map and show you the property so we all know what we're talking about. So if that little blue line gets there, we'll be in business. What we have is two different properties. One is town-owned. It's the Jaskowski property up here on the north side of Lone Tree Reservoir. And then the Haworth family has also submitted an annexation application to the town back at about in February. I think I have the dates in my staff report. And as part of the comprehensive plan calls for properties that are annexed into the community to be within the growth management area. So in order to annex, we can't go annex Carter Lake as a crazy example, because it's not in our growth management area. So we'd have to take a number of steps prior to doing something like that. And that's a pretty bad example. So our growth management area right now ends at County Road 19 here, and then goes around the Heron Lakes development. It's the left side of that left map that's on the wall behind us, behind you. And so part of the rationale for this is we're completing survey work to annex a number of town properties. The Carter House at Berthoud Reservoir, the Richardson property, which is right here, which is owned by the town itself. Jaskowski up here, again owned by the town. And then the Haworth family is also seeking annexation. So as staff, it made sense to make a couple of growth management area boundary amendments at the same time, so that as I'm getting those survey and annexation maps, I've just gotten Carter today. The Jaskowski maps will be next week. So by the time we get to about August, we're probably looking at doing some annexation and zoning of town-owned property. Sort of in a one fell swoop. I'll try to combine those and do a couple of those at a time in an evening. So while the idea here is that let's move forward on that. We all know that the there's a comprehensive plan update in progress. They've talked about, and they're going to be recommending a change to the growth management boundary itself. But we felt that that we have real live applications from neighboring property owners, neighboring the community, and so we have to address it. And in fact, we have to do our job while the committee and the update of the comprehensive plan is doing their job. So I'll shift away from my two drawings. What this is, though, is the Planning Commission has taken action to change this boundary. They did that after a public hearing on the 30th of May. And we run into sort of different sets of rules. The state law says the Colorado Revised Statutes really give power for comprehensive plans and the pieces and parts in a comprehensive plan to the Planning Commission of the community. Then our comprehensive plan talks about the Planning Commission taking action, and then it really sort of being ratified or also appearing before the town board, that same action. So our document says we need to come here. State law doesn't say I have to come here and ask you guys about changing the growth management area, but it's good practice in communities around all across Colorado. That's what happens. It happens in Craig, it happens in Burlington, it happens all over the place, that the Planning Commission doesn't run off and do comp plans by themselves. They check in with the board. So that's essentially what we're doing on this event. I think probably legally the action's been taken. So I'm going to shift away from maps and get back to my staff report. So there's background on the Hayworth property, Haworth. I've been corrected actually by Sue, not by the family, that it's Ha and not Hayworth. And talk about the Jaskowski. So I probably walked through most of my background already. The Jaskowski properties, almost 80 acres, 78.78 acres. It's now owned by the town, and Eileen Jaskowski has a life estate. She gets to stay on that until as long as she's around, and gets to call Mike on Sunday mornings as long as she's around. And and then the Haworth estate is also submitted annexation request to the town for 86.44 acres. That's at County Road 19 and Larimer County Road 8. I talk in my staff report about the relationship of a GMA amendment and what it means with our Larimer County, with our intergovernmental agreement with Larimer County. That document is in your packet as well. And it just outlines I've got a couple of sort of a summary of what the effect of changing a GMA, and in effect, what we're doing here is we're changing a GMA for someone who's asked and for property we own. We're not changing a GMA tonight for any other county residents in Larimer County or Weld County or any other county on earth. So a couple things happened. The county, I've got my little bullet list here that the county agrees not to process subdivision requests, applications for something that's within a GMA unless the town's denied that. None of these fall into play on the properties we're talking about tonight. The county requires property to have an agreement to annex when eligible. Well, we've got with the one we don't own, we have an application before us, pending before us. So a couple other bullets there. So as we work with Larimer County, I've been trying for a couple of years, and we've gotten busy on our side. They've changed staff on their side. We've been trying to get to a review and an update of our intergovernmental agreement with Larimer County for probably 4 of the 5 years I've been here. So we're gonna keep trying. We've got a new community development director over there, and Hoffman's about a year or so, year and a half by now maybe, into her job, and maybe we'll get there this time, and we'll redefine what this IGA between us means and redefine what it means to be in or out of a growth management area. So I did give background on the Haworth property because we talked back in, we were here on October 23rd. And the applicants were here, and they just talked about, well, you know, should we come into town or not, kind of a thing. We had that discussion here in this forum. I had drafted, but not sent, a staff report, and then talked to Mike about it, because we tend to talk a fair amount when we're doing stuff like this. We did not send, my staff report said, geez, we'd recommend that you deny the application, and we recommend that they come into town. They're across the street. You know, I can throw a biscuit from this property and hit the town of Berthoud incorporated boundaries, or I could throw my shoe if I need to do anything. You don't have to throw very far to hit the town. And I felt that the application that was before the county that put development restrictions on the property, on a fair amount of the property for, I think, 40 years, was not a good idea for the town. We ended up as a town, we came to you guys and asked for, you know, you to think about it a little bit back in October, and then Bruce Fickle did respond to the county with a different letter that I have back here somewhere. Let me get to it. One of the things with this is it goes in order. Here's the letter from Bruce, October 29th, which was our response deadline. And Brenda, in this letter, is Brenda Gimson from Larimer County Rural Land Use kind of department. So that's where the application officially was, and that's where we needed to respond to. And so, ding, 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 the Sorensens, who are the Haworth family, agreed that it's appropriate to, you know, sort of pull back their application from Larimer County and start talking to staff here at the town. And so we did. We started working with them. Sue and I and Mike started working with them, and I think that led to the application in about February. So it takes a while to make those maps and make those changes and to apply in a community. So that probably is my background, unless you have questions for me. So we're not inside of a public hearing, and what staff's asking for you essentially tonight is to ratify Planning Commission action.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any questions for staff at this point? No. Okay. Although it's not, you know, I guess, statutorily required, we're always happy to take public comment, and in particular, since someone signed up for this, I'd like to open it for public comment at this time.
And I'll just leave the map up, and if we want something else up,
Yep.
I can put that up as well.
So the folks that signed up, would you like to come forward and speak? If you would please state your name and address for the record, and we ask that you try to keep the comments to about 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is John Thompson. I live at 2605 West County Road 8. Right there, just outside of and across the road from our property. The main reason I'm here is we received a letter from the commission with a map like that about the planning commission meeting, and we chose not to attend because we live outside of that area and felt it didn't really involve us. I don't believe in telling people what they can or can't do with their property unless I own it. If I own it, you know. But, so anyway, then we turn around and we see in the paper where, in reality, according to the paper, the GMA, they've decided to take up County Road 21, square it off and go all the way through there, which does, and go south all the way to the Boulder County line, which is the action that you've done? I don't know. I'm confused because you're saying you're gonna include these in the GMA?
Yeah.
What about this other property?
Tonight, what's under consideration are just those two hatched properties on the map up there.
So, in other words, the GMA is not going to move into
No.
down to Boulder County Road of
And-
23.
What's
That-
going on?
You go ahead and explain. That's
What's
fine.
going on right now is that the town has a comprehensive master plan. And it was done 5 or 6 years ago, and it called for a review every 5 years. And there's a committee right now that's going through the process of doing the review. And there's a Weld County and a Larimer County representative on this committee. And they've looked at all these areas. And I believe, I haven't been attending the meetings, I get reports, they've discussed where that GMA they think it should be. And there's been discussion about moving the GMA out to 21. At the end of that process, when that group's done and has a recommendation, they'll bring that recommendation to the Planning Commission, and then they'll bring their recommendations to the town board. And there'll be public input again of both of those processes. And that doesn't, putting it in a GMA doesn't mean that the town has any intention of going out and forcefully annexing anything. What it does is it says that there's a possibility someday the town may have to serve sewer or water or something else to those areas. As a matter of fact, we just picked up a rural subdivision in the last month that we're going to serve sewer services to. Larimer County's not interested in building sewer plants or anything. So that's an entirely separate process. There will be public input with the process, and it'll be noticed.
Okay, because you said it, being in a GMA doesn't change the people that live there, because the town doesn't do anything. It does because it takes you away from being able to deal directly with the county.
No, being in the GMA doesn't really.
Well, he just stated it a little bit earlier that it did. That it, yet in fact, does make you go through the town rather than through the county.
If you're going to develop, what it does is, if you go to the county will say, you're in the town's GMA, you should go talk to the town if you want to develop. That's what it does. You're right.
Yeah. Okay, clears up my question.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
I'm just gonna wiggle the screen so it doesn't look black. You're fine, no, I didn't. There, that'll.
I have a letter that I've written to the board. Do you want copies?
Certainly.
Diane Pollock, 2604 West County Road 8, Berthoud. I abut the Haworth property just directly to the west and right there, across from Thompson's. We are concerned about the way the town is proposing to change the rural atmosphere in western Berthoud. In 2010, there was considerable discussion and debate regarding the GMA boundary, and the resulting GMA was established, and in our minds, still is appropriate. In the big picture, there haven't been any significant events that should cause the GMA to change. Your GMA committee consultant, Stan Everett, encouraged the GMA committee not to get sidetracked micromanaging the GMA boundaries, which is exactly what you are doing by carving out a portion of land to annex to the city of Berthoud. During a recent GMA planning committee session, it was brought up that in the current GMA, everything up there are enough building lots and developments to exceed 20 years worth of growth at historic and current growth rates. It needs to be very clear that our neighbors, the Haworth heirs, stated desire when they submitted the original proposal to Larimer County was to have 3 buildable lots and 1 agricultural building lot. We think the town of Berthoud has confused their intent with the town's desire to grow the town, no matter what the cost, to the western portion of rural Berthoud. During the last GMA discussion, the views and the gateway to the Rocky Mountain National Park was an important consideration, as well as the rural aspect of the area. Additionally, the feathering from Berthoud into the rural area to the west was supposed to be accomplished from Highway 287 bypass to County Road 19, which made a nice transition. The people of the Belcara subdivision have enjoyed a nice transition in this neighborhood. It is unfair to the people in rural western Berthoud to try and change the established rural character just because you see it as an opportunity to capture more fees and future taxes. Furthermore, the Hayworth family came to the town of Berthoud on October 23rd, 2012. We have a copy of that CD copy of that meeting. We are outraged at how you handled their request to have their plan, which was filed through the county, denied. You promised them that you would annex them within 60 days, that this was a new board, and you would get anything through for them. You've overstepped your bounds. This was completely inappropriate and did not follow due process. None of the neighbors were notified of your decision to annex at that time, yet you promised it. We would like to set the record straight that, as neighbors, we don't want to stop or have ever wanted to stop the development of the Red Haworth property. What we have been against, are against, and will continue to be against is the growth of town to the west, annexing the property and thus affecting our property values and our lifestyles. We would prefer that the Haworth family pursue their application to Larimer County for their proposed development. The family talks about a legacy of Red Haworth. Are you willing to grant their wishes for the proposed development that they want? They requested 3 building lots on the property and a 1.5 acre lot for outbuilding and agricultural support. Are you willing to abide by their wishes? Will you put in writing that this is what you will do with their land? We request that you stop the growth to the west, reconsider your current growth options, and plan intelligently so that Berthoud will remain the garden spot of Colorado, not the hodgepodge mishmash of the Front Range. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pollock. Anyone else like to speak? Mina?
Hi, my name is Mina Cox. I'm at 841 North County Road 19, and I'm looking around at all of you, and I'm sure you're going, what the heck? She's here again, right? The reason I'm standing here in front of you again is, one, I am on the comp plan committee, and I expressed at the planning and zoning meeting that it's appropriate to have, as you can see, there's a lot of public input, to have the process followed to really identify what the vision is for that west side of the community. Originally, what the comp plan was done, there were hundreds of people involved in this comp plan, and it was very, very clear as far as what was identified for an edge of town. People didn't want to have a western Berthoud, a middle Berthoud, and an eastern Berthoud. Now, first of all, I see like Trustee Shepherd, you know, I mean, it's really easy. I've sat in similar situations when the same people come forward over and over again. It's really easy to dismiss us. But I hope you guys take a minute and really consider the sweet deal that the county has presented to the town, which is they were willing to go ahead and put in this type of development on the edge of your community. And it wasn't all filled up, and it's a process where once the worst case is if you guys do nothing and you let the comp plan process go through, even if they go through the county, there's an opportunity later to go and do something with this from a town perspective, because it's almost all open what they're trying to do and what they had presented to the county. So just because the county said, hey, we want to keep this for 40 years this way, that's if they remain in the county. The town has the option in the future to, once it's identified what that true vision is, why right now spend the money for the infrastructure that you're going to have to pay for in order to support 3 houses or whatever they're trying to do at this point. So I really ask that you really consider allowing this committee to finish the process, really allow the public input so that the true vision of what should happen on the west side, especially with the amount of money that was spent in the past and the amount of public input that you had in the past, I would just like you to really consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Nancy Lamb, 1101 North County Road 19. So we live sort of on the north end of that, between 19 and 21, and have some of that farm property there. So I just wanted to speak from, I don't think it's always been clear sort of where we were coming from. And I know we laugh when we hear rumors come back to us because we think, well, where in the heck did that come from? So I just thought I would tell you our perspective on Berthoud. One, we love it, so I'm sure you do too. And when we bought, say, the land out east, we had a lot of different options we were looking at. And we said, you know what? We live in Berthoud, and we love Berthoud. And we knew at the time that a lot was, because we were looking at land, we own a lot of land in Larimer County. We knew that a lot was happening out there, and there was at risk to lose that to Johnstown at the time. We knew that. So I want you to know the reason we bought that land out east was for Berthoud. So when you all did the development plan out there, we knew that's what that was for. And it was really because we care about Berthoud. It wasn't because there wasn't a better opportunity. There was probably land that had more water rights, which we all know in the end maybe that was a bad decision because that became so valuable. But really, that was our primary reason we bought that. We knew we were never going to live out there, but it was really, we knew Berthoud should control that. And we thought that was something we could help with. And when we look at the western side, we're not going to live there forever. But, and so to make it the most valuable to us, man, annex it, get the density in, get it in your growth management, that would make it the most valuable for resale for us. But, so when I come here, it's really counterintuitive that I would come and say, I think for Berthoud, if you think it through, people in Berthoud appreciate the west side being rural. Really, the east of Berthoud, there's a lot of goals to develop that, at least that I understand, as our gateway into the highway and into that maybe a business development right out at the highway. And so there was a lot of talk about keeping the west a little bit more rural, a little bit larger properties, really for Berthoud, so there is some balance to what's going on. So as a property owner out there, I just thought I would bring it to your attention that we are not doing maybe what's financially best for us, but really thinking of Berthoud when we make that suggestion. So anyway, that's it.
Just FYI, Nancy's husband David's our Weld County representative on the comp plan review. Oh, I see.
No, I don't mean that. I'm just joking.
Okay. Well, we appreciate what he's doing, so I just want to mention it.
It kills him because he's a broker, so it kind of kills him to really look at. And I remind him every day, you go there and do what you think is best for Berthoud. And that's his job.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak before us on this matter tonight? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for questions or comments. Nothing? Nothing.
Thinking.
Some time? Well, I'll say, my comfort in the precise matter that we're being asked to ratify tonight is that this just gives us permission to talk to them. It gives them permission to talk to us. It does not entitle a single home or subdivision or new property line at this point. This is just allowing an avenue for communication, and that certainly gives me comfort to ratify the decision that the Planning Commission made.
May I also add that in doing that, we're not telling anyone what they need to build on their property or change any of their wishes for what they do to a property. This is really, as you mentioned, an opportunity to say if there has been interest in presenting some people wanting to be part of the town. We're looking at it from a perspective on, in order to follow the proper process, this is what we'd have to do to allow them to even talk to us. No other decision other than that has been made, so I'm also comfortable with kind of moving forward with this.
Yeah. And the comp plan amendment has been alluded to several times. That is an ongoing effort that will further and better define what happens in that part of town, but that's a separate matter from what's before us tonight. Questions, comments? If not, there's a suggested motion to ratify.
I was just going to add, I want to thank Mina for being on the comp plan committee. Also, we're starting to spend a lot of time together. But other than that, no, it is an ongoing process. But as we're continuing forward, and take care of the people that are coming to us and asking us, so for be part of the town. I think that's understood.
I wanted to say something too.
Go ahead.
I don't think anybody on this board has proposed any kind of vision for properties that aren't before us in changing any rural character at this point. We're going based on 2 properties, one that the town owns, the Jaskowski property, and one from a family who had come to the town when their father was alive to develop it. And so I don't think that's a new discussion or conversation historically for the people who live by them. And so I feel very comfortable in moving forward with the decision before the board based on the Planning Commission's consideration of the facts that they were presented and when the family also spoke. So I feel very comfortable that we're not making any land grabs, that we're listening to the public. And I welcome anyone to any meetings that we have and conversations that we've got with the public relative to any land development issues. That's all.
Thank you. Someone like to make a motion? It's recommended.
3 for 3. I'll move to ratify the plan.
Hold on.
Oh.
Sorry.
Wait, I'm just slowing. I would just like to say something to Ms. Pollock. I can feel your anger. And I'm wondering why you say that the town confused the Haworth family. Do they feel like that we threw a kink into their armor, or are they wanting to go ahead with the annexation? Sure, please.
From the DVD meeting that I have a copy of, they came to you only for, as recommended and from the county.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they want with that property. They want the 3 building lots. And at that time, in that meeting, many of you said, oh, no, just, we'll annex you. We can annex you within 60 days once this is approved. And that was completely out of line. They know what they can get through the county. They can get what they want. But then for you to come and say to them, we'll take it. We'll do it. We want to do it. That just seems out of line. And to have done it at that time, virtually promising them that you would annex them before any of us were even notified that this was going on. Sure, I understand the history. I've been to a lot of meetings in the past, believe me. And that was not due process at all, and I really resent that from all of you, because it was underhanded. I don't think the Hayworths, as far as I know, they're just going with the flow. I don't truly believe they understand what the consequences will be, because once they are annexed into the town, they've lost their agricultural tax base.
Is that true?
It's not true. It's not true.
Once they build, they will. Once they build and subdivide that, then the 10-acre property will not be.
And they understand that.
Okay.
I'd like to try to bring this back to the discussion on the board rather than a debate.
Yes.
If you could, comments or questions,
Well,
Trustee Witt?
I just think that the Haworths are the ones that made the decision to do this. They weren't, we didn't twist any arms. They came, correct, they came to us and wanted to be annexed. And we're not telling them they have to build have more than 3 lots on there. I just think that we're doing what the family has asked us to do. And we're not changing the GMA tonight. We're just voting on these 2 properties that, so I just wanted you to know that, I don't want to have an adversarial thing here. I want it to be known that we're doing what the Haworths have asked of us.
And for clarification, we are changing the GMA for those 2
Well,
properties.
for those 2 properties, but not for
broadly.
the rest
Right.
of the.
Right.
And we're actually not doing anything that the Howards are it's part of the due process for us to be able to even consider the annexation,
Right.
is we would have to do that.
They've asked for the process.
Mike, did you have any feedback?
May not be my place, probably the Howarths would rather talk, but my recollection of this is pretty much different than that. We were noticed by the county that Howarths had talked to the county, and that the deal that they were offered by the county was to create the 3 lots or something, and the rest of the property would be tied up for 30 or 40 years, something like that, and they couldn't do anything with it. And when they came to us, they had already been advised, to the best of my knowledge, by a realtor and attorney from Longmont to tell them that's a bad deal, don't do that. So when they came to us looking for another solution. They said they had been here before, they were denied annexation, was there any possibility whatsoever? And that's when we invited them to come to a meeting. And they came that night, and I think we're surprised to hear the board say that if you want to come in and ask to be annexed, do it. We've got an open door process, and that's available to you. And from that point, it went to paperwork. But at no time did we ever try to entice them into coming in to doing that, or promise them anything or anything else. They had already, to the best of my knowledge, abandoned the county prospect that they was going to go through. But ask them. So you need to hear from. But the town did nothing to try to entice them to come in. They came that night. They asked, would it be considered? They were pretty surprised when they left here that the board said, our door's open. You're welcome to come back in and ask for an application for the annexation. That's, I don't know if you've got a copy of that. We can get you a copy of that meeting, a DVD, if you want to watch that. Okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none, then I'd like to move to ratify Planning Commission's Resolution 1-13, which amended the boundaries of the Berthoud Growth Management Area as discussed tonight.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you.
One other thing I recollect from that evening is that they asked us, the family did, to send a letter to the county asking the county to delay the process, and we did that. Attorney Fickle wrote that letter to the county to say that we've been asked, the town has, by the family, to send you a note saying, will you put the process on hold? I think the memo back from the county said, you know what, it was a courtesy to send you notice, we don't care what you think, so that was kind of how that played out. Okay.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, sounded like the juiciest discussion, but when you actually read the packet, it's not that big of a deal. And that is a discussion on discharge of firearms within the city limits.
And that's not me.
Where is Chief Glenn?
That's Chief.
It's a squirrel hunting thing. That's a big no-no, yeah. It's to the west, we're doing a gun race.
If we were in the county, this wouldn't be a problem.
Ron, would you sit, there he is.
There he is.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's just de-annex the whole town. We'll be in the county and everybody can discharge their firearms, right?
I did read in the paper about Weld County, and I'm thinking part of town is in Weld County here now. So.
Yeah, that's.
North
Yep.
All right.
Welcome.
I came tonight to talk to you, as you've seen the paperwork that you should have, about, let me go back and say where this started. Okay, we have a we have a federal firearms license dealer business here in town, okay, a firearms dealer. This firearms dealer at times has to test weapons. And to test them, he fires into what is called a bullet trap from very short distance. It's not a long way away. He does this sometimes to test suppressors. And suppressors, they used to be called silencers, but they don't really silence the gun. They just reduce the muzzle flash and they reduce the sound coming from the weapon. So when he does this, he has to leave town to do it. And typically, I think what he does now is he goes to a business that has one, has a bullet trap, he does a test firing, and typically from his statements when he Test fires a gun with a suppressor for a customer, the customer buys a suppressor. And one of the reasons for that is if you've ever been at a range and you've been firing a weapon, it's pretty loud. It can be damaging to your ears unless you have the proper, headpiece on. Well, with the suppressor, you don't have to worry about that. Other things that I can think of that would be useful in test firing weapons. I'll give you an example. One of our officers has a rifle. He had some modifications done to his rifle. He went out to the range. Nothing happened when he pulled the trigger. So he had to go to a handgun or a rifle expert, someone that could check his weapon out, make sure he has all the right parts. Some of the parts were defective, so they replaced those. But in order to test that, he has to go to a range every time, where a dealer, if he's test firing or repairing a weapon, can do it right in the shop. Now, if we do something like this in town and we allow somebody to do that in a shop, we want to make sure that it is as safe as it can possibly be. Now, the way to do that is you do the research on the type of equipment the person's using. You require the person to have additional backstop that would prevent a bullet from getting, if something happened and a gun misfired and it wasn't directed right at the trap, we want to make sure that he has adequate backstop to make sure that that bullet does not leave the premises. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't hurt people. It doesn't hurt property outside. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. Is this business brought it to our attention, and we're going, well, we want to support the businesses in town. We want to do it safely. We want to make sure that if somebody does test fire, they do have adequate equipment to make sure that it doesn't cause any problems. And so what we asked Greg Bell's office to help us with a proposal for a bullet trap in this business. Well, there's a second part to this. When we start looking at a bullet trap, and Mike Hart came to me and said, well, can we look at also what we would have to do to legally fire a weapon in town at an indoor range? Well, it's really pretty simple. Wasn't that much more added to what we're looking at already. And again, Greg Bell's office came up with some wording, and we worked on this, and we got the wording to what it is today. Now let me go back in the paperwork you have and tell you about our current ordinance on firing weapons in Berthoud. The current ordinance says no, with a couple exceptions, of course. One is law enforcement in the performance of their duty. It's allowed to fire a weapon. The other one is at the town's firing range. Let me explain about the firing range a little bit. That firing range is the town's private property, and it's 100% controlled by the police department. I get to decide who can go there and who can't. And right now, I will allow other law enforcement agencies to do training or qualification at our range, and that's it. I don't allow any citizens to go out there. I don't allow people to take their family, officers to take their families out there to shoot. It's firearms, and the liability is just too high. So those two are what we have right now, a law enforcement officer and law enforcement officers. But if we look at the proposed ordinances that we have and the changes, basically what you'll find in here is Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3A are just repeats of what we have in our current ordinance. We get down to Part 3B, and it says, if it's in a business licensed to buy and sell weapons, and it's used, the intent is to test fire weapons, and it has to be approved in writing by the chief of police. We go on to Part 3C, which talks about the range, indoor range basically is what we're looking at here. What you'll find in there is the words bullet trap are in there too. Different type of bullet trap. Larger, different types of bullet traps that can be used in this situation. But this is for people firing from a distance rather than firing up close just to test a weapon. And again, it has to be approved by, guess who? Okay, it has to be. And I'm going to make sure that any bullet traps that are used, whether it's for a range or whether it's for this business, are safe. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to have our firearms instructor do the research. I'm going to make sure that not only do they have a good bullet trap, but they also have backdrop. Bullet traps, usually, the ones that we're talking about in the business over here would be a steel enclosure. Some of them are round, some are rectangle type shapes. Inside there are two ways that they can do this. One is, from what I've read, one is it's just steel, and what happens when the bullet goes in, it hits an angled piece of steel, it loses its momentum or kinetic energy. It'll end up falling to the bottom. Some of the others that I've seen have what is called ballistic rubber inside, and what that does is it catches the bullet, just slows it down because it's hitting these chunks of rubber inside.
Thank you.
It's up to you to discuss, and
I'll
if you see any need for changes.
add a little to this conversation, is that Glenn's correct. The request that came in from the dealer was that it be for the muffled gunnels only. The dealership produces quite a bit of sales tax for the town, and these are not inexpensive. They're like $200 to $400. You have to register all that with the federal government and everything to own one, but that's a fair amount of sales tax every time he sells one of those. And he does have to close the shop now if he needs to demo one or anything else and go somewhere out in the country to do that. On the end, and the chief can regulate that, can say no rifles, only pistols and only pistols with muffled sound. I mean, we don't want everybody to hear bang, bang, bang when they walk across there. So that's all can be regulated by Glenn. On the other issue, it's still our goal to create regional recreation in Berthoud. And these indoor shooting ranges have become pretty popular. If you've seen the article about Broomfield the other day, Longmont has a public-private right next to a private, waiting room only from what we heard to get into those. The Loveland one that got built, that's a waiting list only to get into that, so they've become really popular. And we have had some preliminary discussion with the group here in Berthoud about maybe constructing one of those here in Berthoud. So this would create an opportunity for us to tell them, it's legal, we can do it if you guys want to put one up, so.
And the other thing about a range is that it also depends on changes in our current zoning, which I've already talked with Tim just very briefly about that. But zoning would have to be changed to allow an indoor range also.
With, if you issue a permit for this, I don't know if permit's the right word or not, would that be tied to that ownership? In other words, could the ownership change and have that permit still be enforced, or would your intent be that you'd have to reassess the new
Well,
people?
if the ownership changed and the same equipment stayed in place, it would be.
You'd
you know,
still
it could
probably,
go to the new owner.
that would probably be up to you, wouldn't it, depending on how we
Well,
set
it's
this
the
up?
range and he's right, it's the range and the trap he's approving, not necessarily the ownership, although that's gonna go with your, you know, in your initial investigation, presumably. The only place that really comes into play is in C, if there is a commercial range out there. And we intentionally stayed out of the land use part of this because you'd have to do a public hearing and everything to make that change. So before you got to the point of a public range, you're gonna have to revisit this on land use, and you might wanna put some restrictions in your land use about ownership.
We think Second Street's not the best place for it.
Any questions for Chief?
I did have one. How often do you have to inspect these bullet traps, and should that be put in there so that it has to be renewable at least once a year or once every couple of years to ensure that it's still safe?
And I don't know what the lifespan of the traps are. I really couldn't tell you, but it might be a good idea to put in there. Maybe not number of years, but maybe number of test fires. And I don't know what number you would use for that.
I don't know if that might just be something that, so that there's at least, because once you've signed it and said it's been approved, at what point
Yeah.
it'll have your signature on that in case it fails.
John, I think,
An easy solution to that is they've gotta have his approval in advance. His approval letters can have expirations in them.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I would just ask for caution in those kind of matters. I was after the same thing. What if a really great stand-up guy has the business now, and then, 2-3 years from now, someone else is running it?
keep
We
in
should
mind
have-
that to get a.
It's still
firearms
firearms,
license,
yeah,
there
you
are
still have to go
some
through.
state restrictions.
Yeah.
I'm more.
And then I figure as long as we keep the trap pointed north, or south, not north.
Yeah, I'm more thinking of at what point is there a failure rate of the trap, you know, you're shooting, I mean, that's powerful, and after a certain amount of shots, I mean, it could start failing, and should there be an opportunity to sit there and just make sure that it's still in?
I think these are
condition?
22s, and I think these traps will take 50 caliber, so you probably would never wear one out in a lifetime, but,
But back to Greg's,
yeah.
you could make it
I'd
conditional
say
in the
that's a good
letter.
idea, that you
think,
just make it an 18, 24-month permit, something like that, or
To
1
use,
year.
to use the munitions vernacular, just make sure you have good backstops in place with the approval.
Yeah.
Cool.
My question would be, is the noise going to be loud enough to where it can be heard outside or in the buildings next door?
When he's testing a suppressor, it won't be enough to startle anyone that's outside the business. Okay, now if he's testing another type of weapon, say a 22 pistol, you heard 22s, even a higher caliber pistol, outside the business you'll hear a noise, but it won't be something that is outrageous.
All he asked for was the suppression, so what we could do is condition the permit on just suppressed weapons only, and not allow him to shoot unsuppressed weapons. Because that's all he asked for.
Is he located in an industrial area, commercial area?
Across the street. Thomas
Yes.
wants to know if he's shooting to the west.
All right.
Glenn, I just want to say thanks for all you do for the town. I appreciate it.
Very welcome. I enjoy it.
So before we, and I do too, before we go with what we were just talking about, what is the owner of the business at this point in time expecting to come from the board, that it's suppression only, or that he can,
He's expecting suppression only.
okay.
You know, and I'm looking at future businesses.
General
future-
policy.
What we're acting on, though, gives discretion to
Okay.
the chief to make
Okay.
those sort of decisions.
And then the only other thing, Chief, is just, the writing, been approved in writing in advance by the chief of police or his or her designees. This, I would imagine, is going to be the ranking officer on duty or ranking officer at the time.
Yeah, it would be.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody like to move this ordinance?
Berthoud, I'll make the motion. Berthoud Police Department asks the Town Board of Trustees to vote to pass an ordinance changing the current town code, providing safe methods for firing weapons for testing and practice and use of firearms.
And this is ordinance number? 1159.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you. Wonderful. We got through our agenda, and we're down to reports tonight. So let's
Thank you.
Thanks,
start
Glenn.
tonight with Trustee Jones. Do you have any reports?
Yeah, the Berthoud Historic Preservation Committee is pulling forward on getting more, what do I call those?
Creation of a residential historic district?
Yeah, residential historic district, they're in the process of getting the areas lined out and soon to be informing the public and us about it. So it's coming up, and just thought I'd let you know.
Thank you for that update. Anything else?
That'll do it.
All right, Trustee Bauer.
I had a question actually regarding that. Then are they seeking their own counsel, or is town serving as a counsel for that in terms of developing that?
Where'd Tim go? He'd probably have the best information. We did. Okay. Tim is the staff liaison to that group, and so he would be the best one to ask. I can send you an email, let you know.
Okay, so I do know that when we went ahead and when the Historic Preservation Committee did it, or historic, can't remember if it was a historic commission, they were dealing, for the downtown area, it became an interesting legal aspect of it to the point where our own attorney, or at the time our town attorney, gave legal counsel to the commission, and then turned around and then argued here in front of us against the commission. So I wanted to make sure that we don't do that again.
That will not happen again.
Okay, so
We
if
don't own houses here, do you?
no, however, our other attorney does still own property here in town, where that might still apply once again. So that's why I was wondering if we would be, is a committee asking for any legal counsel at this time, but I'm hearing not yet, but if they do, that's something to consider.
Thank you. Any reports?
We had a wonderful, wonderful birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say that I really appreciate all the efforts everyone put in. I appreciate what the chamber did to put that together. The music was fantastic, as far as I remember, it was a great time had for all. And I just got to thank the town and thank the chamber for putting such a wonderful event, and to the police staff for helping out and making sure everything was under control. I did not hear of any disturbances or anything like that, so I think that turned out fairly sane, which was really nice. But so, other than that, I did attend also this week. Was it this week already? Or was it last week? It was last week. Last week I attended the MPO, but I'll let Mayor Pro Tem Dowker speak to that.
Oh, you can speak to it if you want.
Oh, yeah, I'm not allowed to vote if you're sitting down at the dais while there's another member of my community out there. So just FYI if anybody else falls into that scenario.
We're both sitting at the table, and so they actually asked the question.
Hey, Tom
John
sent
voting?
me in
And I'm
his
like,
place
no.
one time when I ain't even supposed to be there, elected official, staff.
Well, so, yeah, it was a very good MPO meeting, and we got more information. There was an Impact 64 meeting as well, relative to moving forward with how they're going to fix roads and discuss transit issues. I'm not going to be able to make tomorrow, but I will make Thursday's front inaugural event, which is rail transit issues. John will be attending both days.
It's the Front Range on Track Summit. Yep, so.
And to, well, and to give kudos to Councilwoman Joan Schaefer. She's the founder of Front, and is very interested in rail transit and commuter and such. So we'll be touring from Fort Collins to Longmont along 287 and back up 25, and discussing a lot of different rail-related transit issues. So the MPO is moving along, no pun intended with travel, but we had a planning commission meeting, and the family did speak from the Howarths. So when I asked the question, I do want to speak to this publicly on record, because when I asked the family who from the community that was opposed to them had actually spoken with them about the issue, they said nobody. So the people writing letters and such, and had not spoken with the family about their request to the town. And the family was very supportive of being annexed into the town. They had no reservations at all. So they were forthright and said that. So that is, I think, all I have to say.
Thank you.
I loved Bertha Day. I give kudos to Ron and Mary as well from the town. They did a wonderful job. Ron, thank you for driving the tractor. It was incredible. I want to give, and thanks for all the donations for the day, including the tractor and the tractor trailer, which was very comfortably ridden by me on part of the drive. So,
Thanks.
thanks.
Trustee White.
I want to say Bertha Days was, man, I don't think I've ever seen that many people lining the streets during the parade. And, I mean, I've been to a lot of them, and it was just huge crowds. So, did a good job, and I think it was well-received this year. So,
It didn't rain.
and it didn't rain. Knock on wood. Other than that, I attended graduation for the 8th grade.
Nice.
It was pretty nice, and a lot. I was amazed at how many of the students received commendations for their grades. 4.0 and 3.5 to 4.0. Almost the whole class was up there. So we have a good group of 8th graders going on to high school. So that's all.
Thank you. Trustee Shepherd?
I'll just start in with birthday, huge crowd, and thanks so much to the chamber. Every year I am a little bit more amazed at how the volunteers all come together through the course of the year. And to pull off an event, I don't think we all realize how much work this takes for all the volunteers, volunteer people to pull this event off with the thousands of people coming into town. It's tremendous. And bless their hearts, and I'm sure the day after they were plenty glad it was over with. So, but it was a great success and great weather, and also my kudos to Ron Schneider and also to Mary, and it was a nice, very nice parade. I also attended the Joint Commissioners meeting. It was at the Larimer County Workforce. I forget what day it was. This was a couple weeks ago now. A couple of good presentations down there. So, but once again, informative and pushing for a new Larimer County Workforce building. So couldn't quite get him to come south, I guess, Mike, huh? Yeah, I know you're trying. Also went to, thanks to Jan Dowker, I went to the NFR MPO orientation meeting, which was also 3 weeks ago. It was a makeup from the snow, and I did really enjoy it. And like I said, it was an orientation meeting, so you had presentations from all the different people there, and it was enjoyable and very informative. So if I ever get a chance to go back to another one again, I would like that. I thought it was really good, and I understand a lot more of how important the MPO is, and also talked to the ex-mayor at birthday, ex-mayor Karspek, who was so happy that we have two people that are spending time with the MPO, and that our mayor pro tem is the chair of the MPO. It's a very big vice chair. Excuse me, vice chair. So. Also attended the NCDC site selector meeting in Fort Collins with Mr. Schneider, and that was it, Mr. Schneider. That's all, just you and I, wasn't it? Anyway, so that was very good, another presentation by them and showing movement towards the Front Range to the north. Metro Denver had a representative there, gave a nice presentation with that. So I thought it was informative, and then we had the Aslan people came that Ron got to go, so that was very good. And that's comp plan meetings, and I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bell?
Well, do you know about the Excel issue? How much? We've been spending some time visiting with representatives from Excel about their proposed high-pressure gas line through the middle of your ball fields and rec center. We'll let you know how that progresses. Ms. Cox has been quite helpful on that as well. Something Mike doesn't really know about, I was supposed to buttonhole him about it tonight, but I'll just pitch it to all of you. Stephanie sent us out some matters on a grant, some federal grant proposal stuff that there's about 70, she sent it to us and says, here, would you just sign off on this certification? And so we look at the back and it says, our certification's easy. We, the undersigned attorneys, swear that the person signing this has authority to do so. Okay, so who's gonna sign it? She says, well, Mike just always signs it.
I already collected my signature.
We looked at the rest of it, and he's swearing to about 70 pages of things that no mortal could possibly know about government programs.
It happens a lot.
And so
Somebody goes sign it, it's like, what am I
we
signing?
were going to suggest bringing a resolution back to you, directing him to sign it, to give him a little executive, legislative cover on that.
Absolutely.
Probably.
the other tactic would be if there's anything we don't want to attest to in there, it might be good that I signed it without their permission, or we can tell them too bad.
That's to throw Mike under the bus there.
Mike, who?
He worked for us. And then the final one is, we've been working on the recodification of your code. Peter and I sat down with Mary. I had to leave after a couple hours. I don't know how many hours they continued on with it because I went off to an Excel meeting with Mike. But I'm told they made it all the way through and have it to a point where we're going to start leaking them to you a few chapters at a time. And it's bedtime reading for you if you have trouble sleeping.
Excellent.
So.
Thank you.
Really?
Hey, Mary, why don't you put together a sheet of the best ones that you get the best laughs out of so that we can see them before you get rid of them all?
So unless there's questions, that kind of covers what we're working on.
Thank you.
I just have one question, and I was wondering how the staff is proceeding on the food truck thing. Just out of the blue,
It's okay, just say we are
we are
proceeding.
You'll have it on the agenda at your next meeting.
Oh, look at the confidence.
Ron and I had a meeting about it this afternoon, and we'll just be presenting proposed ideas to you after looking at a lot of the surrounding communities and what they do, and kind of taking some of it that's a little extreme and putting that to the side, and zeroing in mostly on what we think will actually work here and would be fair to everyone, to the town, to the citizens, to the other brick and mortar restaurant buildings, and to the vendors themselves. So we'll be bringing basically just a draft of what we'd like you to look at to see, you know, if you like it, don't like it, on the 25th. So,
Thank you, Mary. And
You're
that's-
welcome.
So as the summer's moving along, after we make our recommendations or whatever as far as what the possible new ordinance, then we can get it probably pretty much back onto a agenda soon after the 25th?
as soon as we know what elements you would like to have in that ordinance, I'm sure that we could get an ordinance in record time.
Yeah, should be able to turn around quick.
Mhm.
Thanks.
The ordinance is actually the easy part of the
Mhm.
whole thing.
Administrator Hart.
Harry didn't do a cheat sheet for me tonight, so it's short. Probably the big one is that we're not gonna have the retreat this Saturday. Everyone knows that, just so everybody at home knows that we're not gonna have the retreat. We have, we've got a lot of things in the mix right now. The comp plan review is kind of the biggie. And we've got a raw water master plan that's gonna be coming to you July, August, and the transportation master plan July, August. A host of issues that we need to get the results of that before we sit down and talk policy. Because I wanted this next meeting to be discussion about the regionalism. You know, where are we in the region? What are we in the region and stuff? So that's not this Saturday, but this Saturday there are a bunch of things going on. The Chamber's sponsoring quilt festivals this weekend. Got the historic home tour this weekend. And the biggie is, at 10 o'clock, it's Antique Tractors. Yes, there's a parade and a show. So quite a few things going on this weekend again.
Thank you.
I just wanted to give a nod to Paul, Trustee Alabac, he's not here, but they did have, I understand, a good showing on Sunday for the unveiling of Kathleen, a local artist, Kathleen Grumman, and had a great showing on Sunday for that. And so Saturday, he'll be very busy with the home tours, and so we will all have the time, since we don't have the retreat, to do the home tours. I'll tag team with you, Trustee Shepherd.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But I did want to say that because Paul has been working very hard on that, so.
And we're going to try to not let the retreat slip past that September, because even though we want to get a lot of this planning done ahead of that, we also want to get the retreat done before we get into the thick of the budget season. So September seems to be the logical slot.
And we're kind of loading agendas right now for July, August. We met again yesterday or day before to do that, so yesterday is going to be a bunch on there.
Rudy, did you have a question? September-ish.
Probably September-ish. We don't have a date yet, Rudy. But we are going to, one of the reasons we waited till June with the retreat is we wanted to do the community forum first, and we did the community forum. There weren't a great deal of issues that came out of that. So we're going to bring the community forum results back at a study session instead and discuss that in a study session. I think July, we got that on there?
Actually, regular meeting,
July
July 25th.
25th, okay.
Yeah, because there was some odds and ends that came out of that. Like
And the
vendor-
food was the biggie, yeah.
We don't want to let that slip till autumn before we deal with it. Okay. Anything else? Last call?
The joint commissioners meeting is, are we having that in July?
Yeah, I forget what the date is. I think everybody got Joe get an invite to that again the other day? Okay, we'll get something out.
Okay, sorry.
Seeing none?
Wait, I do want to say that I loved that the town of Berthoud had a parade float in the parade. I thoroughly enjoyed giving candy to kids and having a smiling face so people didn't go, oh no, it's one of the elected officials. It was,
So it sounds like that's a plan again for next year,
it
right?
sounds like a great plan for the continuing, yeah.
And just so you two know, we had a long meeting with CDOT this afternoon.
We can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and I pointed out to them, they needed a new building, and they said, you know what? We are gonna build a new building. And I says, great, we got a spot for you in Berthoud. They seem to think they're gonna build this building in Greeley, so you guys need to work on them. Get that building over to Berthoud. True. Yeah, true. They're gonna tickled about that too.
All right. Staff, thank you for all the work you do to make us look good. Trustees, thank all you. The reports sessions are getting longer, and it's testament to all of the hours you guys spend outside of these chambers working for the betterment of the town, and I really appreciate that too. If you're so inclined tonight, say a prayer for the firefighters.
Yeah.
Sounds like that blew up on us today.
Yeah.
And have a great week. God bless.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
I'm going to go ahead and have them pass around.